terms of
I'm asking.
outcome?
Yes, what are they telling you in terms of that? You want the entire exercise done?
As it is, according to the law, I know it's only the court process that can reverse this election. So we are going to put our act together. We have evidences on the ground. We have even verbatims from security officers, audios and everything. We are going to put all this in place, and I'm sure we have a case against this, the outcome of this election.
Lucky.
My name is Ibrahim, aspirant for senatorial seat, Isiolo County, in the just concluded general election. I have 3 remarks to make. Number 1, it was clearly evident that the provincial administration and the security apparatus took part in the irregularities that happened in this election. In fact, they were used as a conduit to bribe voters. I can emphatically say that. In stations like Waso Primary and even Bulabesa and parts of Uhuru Primary, security officers were seen harassing our voters, and on the other side, they were assisting our opponents buying or bribing votes outside the polling station. It was clear the way they were lenient on them. It's like they had a clearly cut strategy of working together to make sure that they influence the outcome of this election. Number 2, IEBC did not do their work well. There was unfairness in the whole process. I'm saying this because in stations like Bulabesa, where there is a water kiosk, the law says if it reaches the time of closing the station, but there are people on the queue, you allow them to vote, as long as additional voters do not join the queue past the time. There was a case whereby the presiding officers closed the station. They put off the Kim's kit when people are on the queue, and they were denied right to vote. This happened in water kiosk. It also happened in LMD and Uhuru Primary, where our voters were turned away, despite the fact that they were in the queue before the stipulated time ran out. But there was double standard in this because I was in Garmara at midnight, and I could clearly see new voters being mobilized to join the queue past the stipulated time. There's no problem in voters voting past the time as long as they were in the queue. But there were additional voters being ferried into the line in areas in Garmara. And you know that most of our agents in Garmara and Olonyiro areas, we were not able to reach them. It looks like there was a conduit, a well-orchestrated plan to inflate the figures in those regions to boost up the numbers of our opponents. At the same time, in areas where that are perceived to be our strongholds, the issue was not the same. This, in conclusion, clearly shows that there is a well-orchestrated plan to influence the outcome of this election, both from IBC and the security apparatus. In light of all this, after consultation with also my colleagues, we have decided not to accept this result and reject it in totality. And we are going to do all that is within our means, within the law. And I repeat again, within the law, to reject these results until justice is delivered to the people of Isiolo. We had tallied our results together. We had a tallying center also on our own. And number one, in fact, you know, in most of our strongholds, even polling centers remained they were opened very late. Voting started in areas like Mertiv, almost midday. And by the time, you know, the time of closing polling stations reached, they were turned away. The stations were closed. So what I'm saying in general terms is that the electoral apparatus and also the security ones were not favorable to us, and they were used in manipulating the result of this election. So, in summary, the process was not free and fair. As it is, according to the law, I know it's only the court process that can reverse this election. So we are going to put our act together. We have evidences on the ground. We have even verbal teams from security officers, audios and everything. We are going to put all this in place, and I'm sure we have a case against the outcome of this election. See you in court.
Okay, asanteni sana. Hata mimi nataka kwanza nichukue nafasi hii niwashukuru wale wote wamejitokeza na kutusaidia kupiga kura. Nawashukuru sana tena wale our campaign secretariat who have put in so many hours and a lot of their time from the beginning to the end. I also want to join my governor here, Godana Doyo, to from the beginning say that we are not accepting the outcome of this election or whatever will be announced by IBC for the reason he stated, and some I will add. First of all, this election has been made with a lot of irregularities from the beginning. From the morning when most of the polling stations were open very late in areas of Oldonyiro, Marti sub-county, because the ballot papers arrived very late. And they were not given extra time to compensate for the time that were lost. Secondly, I have personally witnessed in some polling station where some voters were given more than one ballot papers. And I will give you an example of Wabera Primary, one of the streams. I was there. We raised the issue. Our agents raised the issue. And even the specific person who was given. And when I confronted the presiding officer, he said it was a mistake of one of the clerks. And I think it has happened in many other polling stations. Secondly, as the governor has said, there was a lot of voter bribery, especially around Waso Secondary and many other polling stations. And 2 or so persons were arrested. We wanted to know what action has been taken by IBC to bring those people to books. Thirdly, there was massive, and I mean massive, deployment of GSU on the voting day. And it really kept us wondering what was the motive, because Isiolo people were so peaceful. There were no chaos of violence reported. So for us, that was only meant to intimidate ourselves and our supporters. And that has clearly worked. That you can see from the voter turnout. The voter turnout in some places was like 50% or even less. Prior to that, you have witnessed that we were summoned for allegations that were not proven, for allegations that does not exist. So that's all a pile-up of, intimidation, and also to make it look like the face of our other voters that we are violent people and we should not be voted in. So that was used to kind of a smear campaign to sort of sway voters to the other side. And thirdly, the most serious offense of all is why up to this minute the counting process has not stopped. Why up to, this is like now going to the second or third day. Every other place, including a very highly populated counties like Kiambu, did the election and by the following day announced all their voters, all their the results from the governor to MCA. Why is it that it has taken so long? We have witnessed in some of the polling stations where the presiding officers and all the election officials abandoned the polling stations and left. In some, they were even saying they will not commence the counting until they rest. So all this has created a room to create irregularities and even ballot stuffing. Thirdly, I was with Senator Nu here at Ngaramara polling station at around midnight. And believe you me, there was a very long queue and voting was continuing. And that is one of the polling or the wards which has a crazy voter turnout. And when you look at how things are done, clearly, I don't want to preempt some of the strategies we have, but I want to say that we have a lot of evidence that this election was very far away from being free and fair, and that we are not accepting the results, and we want our supporters to know that we did everything possible to protect, but it was not possible to fight a system that was used to fight us. And when I say a system, I mean the government was clearly fighting to ensure that none of us here were elected.
Start with, of course, being very clear about these elections. We want to tell the public that we are not conceding any results that is coming out of this election, because we believe that there are issues that must be addressed by IBC and the concerned authorities. The reasons why we feel that we should not accept the outcome of these elections is because we have seen massive movement of security apparatuses, particularly in Isiolo Central, and we have incidents of these security officials actually interfering with the voting patterns within polling stations. They have interfered with how, voters in different polling stations have continued, with their voting, obstructing voters, in some cases, openly chasing out voters that were actually, supporting especially some of our candidates. So we believe this is premeditated actions by security apparatuses, and we feel that this question must be answered. We have never seen this extraordinary deployment of especially GSU in civilian elections, as it were. So we feel that these GSU were purposefully deployed in Isiolo, particularly Isiolo Central, which has the largest block of voters. And we feel some of us, especially those of us who are seated here, have been targeted. Personally, the governor and the women rep and the senator and the MP Isiolo North. I think we feel Jubilee as a party probably has used government machinery to interfere with elections in Isiolo County. That's a major concern for all of us. Number two, we have also seen cases of voter briberies that have really continued in a very massive way. And we believe that those concerned authorities had looked the other way when we had even incidents of some chiefs or public servants being used to dish out monies to voters who were in line to vote. So those are some of the areas that we feel must have contributed to how the voting was done in Isiolo County. We also feel that some of the public administrators, senior public administrators in the county were used to continue with some scandalous activities behind the scenes where we had cases, of senior officials being used to talk to chiefs and some of those grassroots leaders. So we believe that the elections are not really fair in Isiolo County. It's not fairly and peacefully really conducted the way we feel it. As you have observed for yourself in even tallying areas, the whole place is ring-fenced for the purposes of probably securing votes for some other candidates. So we feel that there are biases and prejudices as far as these elections are concerned. So we want to make it clear that we will not let it go. We will go all the way to make sure that the right thing was done. Of course, we will take up the issues with the IBC, and we will also petition the results that would come out of these elections. So mine is to say that, of course, our supporters have done their best. They have voted for us, and we want to really thank them in a massive way for standing with us and voting for us. But unfortunately, the results that we are seeing is not in tandem with what we have seen on the ground. And we feel our people have been shortchanged. So from the voter transfers to registrations, we feel that there have been a lot of irregularities. We have the evidence that those transfers were done through the back doors, and we feel we had taken up the matter with concerned authorities, especially the IBC, but we were not listened to, and those who were behind those transfers were not made to answer why those things had happened. So we believe there are many, many similar cases here in Isiolo, and we'll take them up in the fullness of time. So I believe we have credible cases to mount as time goes by.